Hello everyone and welcome to a generously spacious, decently capable and a good looking mid-size SUV, the new Chevrolet Traverse. So the new Traverse is offered in three different trims, which is the LT, Z71 and the RS, and the particular variant that I'm reviewing is the Z71, which is a much more off-road focused version of the Traverse. There are like skid plates and the suspension has a bit of a extra bit of travel, so the height is also increased of the car, and there are all-terrain tires. There are also smaller rims, so these are the small changes, and also the front end is slightly different than the other variants. Also it's much more off-road and rugged in terms of its appearance. But let me begin from the front. There is this glossy black grille which is like a split one, and the top bit is also like a functional one because there are like holes out here that is for the intakes. And as I said, this grille is split by this dark chrome bar and also the blacked out Chevrolet badging here. There's more glossy plastic the bottom, and underneath here there is a metal skid plate provided, and if you notice there are two red towing hooks on either side, and also normal plastic provided on the bottom side, so that is just much more easier if you go off-roading and have a bit of scruff here and there. And this is one of the better looking mid-size SUVs, that's for sure, because it, in terms of its appearance and presence, it looks much more, bigger car, like a full-size SUV. When you look at it from the front or even from the side, it's much more rugged. And yeah, I like the styling of this compared to all the four mid-size SUV from the GM's lineup. So I've tested the Cadillac XT6, GMC Acadia, and also the Buick Enclave, and from all of that, this is, I feel, is the better looking. Let me know in the comment section below, and if you want to watch the reviews of all the other three mid-size SUVs, then you can click on the pop-up banner out here, and I'll put a playlist there so you can watch all three of them, including this one that you're watching right now. So let's continue. And then there is this split headlight cluster out here. The top bits are the DRS. They also convert into the turn signals. These are the LED DRS and turn signals, and at the bottom out here there is this headlight surrounded by this C-shaped chrome around it, and this is a full set of LED headlight cluster provided on this Traverse. There are also vents at the bottom of that on either side. They are the functional vents, so extra bit of brake disc cooling and also for the aerodynamic effect. And underneath this sits a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, and just like any other GM cars that I've reviewed before this, also there is this power outlet which is a 120 volt given on here, and the cable for that is provided in the back of the trunk. So on the sides there are these 18-inch dual tone aluminum wheels, and with the all-terrain tires, which is exclusive for this Z71 package. Extra bit of cladding on the fender so that if you go off-roading you don't scrape your fender. There's also this Traverse badging in the black given on the sides, on either side, and at the bottom there is again normal plastic skirtings provided, but the skirtings do not go completely underneath the frame, but it's somewhere in between, so yeah, it might get a little dirty, the frames at the bottom. Again, more claddings, thicker ones by the way, which are given in the front and also in the back too. And I really like this design out here. Gives it a very nice flowy design on the side profile. And as I said, this Z71 package also comes with the suspension lift, which is about 1.2 inches precisely on this Traverse. And when we come to these side mirrors, these are black color side mirrors. They are non-power foldable but power adjustable. They also have the blind spot warning on the inside, one of the cameras from the 360-degree camera system, and also a turning signal provided on the edge. On the top there are these glossy black roof rails. Everything is pretty much blacked out on this, or either it's like dark chrome, which is like a good combination compared with this gray color combination. Now when you come to these doors, so all four doors are smart keyless entry doors. So if you leave the keys in the pocket and walk away from the car would automatically lock itself, and you can change all that settings from inside the infotainment screen. There is also the Chevrolet badging on the front door sills. Then this is a 3-door SUV, so there's also a window cutout given in this exact triangular shape, which once we go inside I'm going to show you that. But the rear is something which again is one of my favorite bits, because these tail lights extend and they are like the three pointy sort of star shape, and all the Traverse, be it LT or the Z71 or the RS, comes with the all-wheel drive system as standard. Now in the rear there are these full set of LED tail lights, turn signals, and the main brake lights are all in LED. The reverse light is provided in the bumper at the bottom, and really like this shape of the lights. It merges very well into the side profile and also into the back, and then continues with this black color plastic with the Chevrolet badging in the black also, and from one end to the other. And this number plate, again, that's in glossy black plastic too. It looks like a mustache, a thin one if you look at it. And then there is also the Traverse badging with the all-wheel drive badging in the black, and the Z71 badging on the other side. And in terms of the visibility, it's quite a bit restricted, and also when there are like passengers in the second or the third row seat, it might get a little more restricted. But there's an optional rear view monitor, so the camera is provided here underneath this spoiler, and in order to switch it on, just flick the rear view mirror and you can get the feed from this camera, and then you can adjust the brightness, the height, and the rotation and all of that from inside. And it's very easy and very crisp. I like the quality of cameras in any GM products that are currently offered. The camera quality is just amazing, something that other manufacturers can maybe learn and implement. And there is also this dual tone spoiler that is given on the top that covers this rear view camera, and at the bottom there is this normal plastic bumper, and underneath that there is this silver color plastic also provided, and there is also a trailering hook that is covered behind this plate, and it can trailer up to 5,000 pounds with this and the right gears. And there are also quad exhaust tips provided, the chromed ones, and these are the functional exhaust tips. And in terms of the trunk space, in order to open the trunk door, you press this button and it very gently opens the trunk door. Now there are scuff plates, plastic ones, provided in the back so that you don't damage your plastic bumper, and there is also a trunk light provided in the trunk door, and this carpet lining given in the back. When the third row seats are folded up, again that's very similar to any other mid-size SUV from the GM's lineup. So when the third row seats are folded up, you can put 23 cubic feet of luggage in the back, which is decent to put like 2 mid-size bags in the back. There are also tying hooks provided on either side, along with a 12-volt power socket. In order to fold down the third row of seats, because these are not electronically foldable, so you have to pull these straps. But the thing is, now the headrest in the third row, one of it is already folded and it does not stay up. Like once it stays up, and then if I fold it down, now it just does not stay up. Yeah, that's the problem. And then in order to fold it, you pull this string and fold down the seats. And on the right side, this headrest, when I pull the string, it does not fold. Yeah, that's the problem. So I have to like do a lot of struggle. When the third row of seats are folded down, you can put 57 cubic feet of luggage in the back, and it's pretty flat. There is no step or anything. And the second row of seats are also foldable, but you can do that from the front only. Now there's a child seat on this side. Let me do on the other side and show you. It's pretty easy. Just pull the lever on the sides and then fold down the second row of seats. So when the second and the third row of seats are folded down, you can put 98 cubic feet of luggage, which is ample for anything to fill this car with. And also underneath the trunk floor here in the back, you can open this and this thing stays like that. And underneath that, there is this cable that I was mentioning about. The port is given on the right side. There are like mats and everything. Those are like optional extras. And then you have to unbolt these 4 bolts on either side, then remove this tray, and underneath that sits a temporary spare wheel. And then in order to close the trunk door, you press this button, because this is an electronically foldable trunk door. And again, that's also very, very gentle. Now at first when you look at the interior, it might look like a lot is there. But sit down and then you just think like, yeah, there is not more than just this 17.7-inch infotainment screen, this 11-inch driver's display, and then after that the entire interior feels a bit too bland, because when you look at it you don't go like, oh, wow, like you're like, yeah, that's good, like, you know, it's functional, I get it, it's a functional interior space provided, because this is again a Z71 package. Plus this Traverse also comes with the Evo Tex Jet Black pack, which is about $1,150. It's an optional extra, along with this red torch accents given on the door cards in the dashboard, and also on the other side it looks like a carbon fiber plastic trim. But yeah, all this is optional extras. But in terms of the material quality, so the top face of the dashboard is soft touch material, decently soft, and in the back side there's a bit of plastic. Even on the door cards there's soft touch materials. There are going to be resting hands, that's black color leather with the red color stitching, and then this torch red plastic accents given on the door cards, in the dashboard, and on the other side too. Glossy plastic in the center console with a bit of chrome around that. And then, as I said, 17.7-inch infotainment screen, 11 inches of driver's display, and leather covered steering wheel. The handrest is also leather covered with the white color stitching. Seats are also leather covered with the red and white stitching. But yes, overall the interior is much more functional and rugged, so that it lasts longer, and because this is an off-road variant, so it has to, yeah, take the abuse and wear and tear for everyday use in case you go mild bit of off-roading more frequently. Now when we come to the driver's display, there is an 11-inch digital driver's display provided on this Traverse, and the layout on this, when you look at it, it's a lot more confusing, because there is a lot of information going on, and there is like, yeah, just numbers and a lot of words given in there, so it might tend to be a little confusing. But there is the layout option, so you press the button on the steering wheel and change the layout to like full screen maps and digital speed on left side, or the safety systems, or the minimalist look where there is only digital speed in the middle. So there is option like that. But when you are in the first view that I had shown you before, so in that first view there is information on the left side and on the right side. So the left side information can be changed using this infotainment screen. There is maintenance, tire pressure is currently on my screen, brake pad life, oil life, engine filter. Go back, then there is gauges in case you want to see the coolant temperature, can add that to the driver's display. Go back, trip, if you want to see the trip information you can add that too. So all that information you can change on the left side. And on the right side there are buttons provided on the right side of the steering wheel. You press those buttons and it's a bit confusing because there are like too many buttons and you have to be, yeah, understanding what goes there. And then audio sources you can select, let's say it's the FM, then you can change the different channels on this too. And then on the other side you can change the phone options, so, or you can mute and everything. So yeah, those buttons are used to change the right side information. But yes, that's the driver's display, and some more information that is shown at the bottom too, like which gear you are in, the all-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, odometer, and the range. When we come to this steering wheel, this is a leather covered steering wheel. It's manually adjustable, tilt and telescopic. There are also paddle shifters, plastic ones provided on the top side, in the back, and some more buttons in the back too, and buttons on either side also. It's a round steering wheel, and there's also LED light on the top side of the steering, that is for the Super Cruise. I'm going to come to that. Then the Chevrolet badging in the middle, Z71 badging also. And on the right side there are buttons to change the information on the driver's display, and also the voice control, and also the heated steering wheel button. Whereas on the left side there are buttons given for the Super Cruise control, but there is also a speed limiter. So in order to go into the speed limiter, you have to go from inside this infotainment screen, one of the many difficult things to figure out inside this car, and also in the other cars that I've reviewed, the same mid-size SUVs. So inside there is drive and park, and in there is speed limiter inside that option. So there's traction control, auto park, hill descent, lane assistance, and speed limiter. All these options are so many, like 2-3 layers inside. And not just that, there's also the dome light button to switch on the lights on top, and if you want to switch on the headlights, it's again on screen given on the left side of the screen. So yeah, all these options are like all inside the infotainment screen. Then as I said, there are also buttons provided in the back of the steering wheel, so on the right side for the volume and on the left side for the track changer. But yes, these are essentially all the buttons. So the steering wheel also itself is quite busy, and as I said, there's LED light given on the top. That's for the super cruise, so it changes from red, blue to green. So red is when it's going to stop, blue is when it is activated, and green is when it is functional, when the cruise control is on, the super cruise. So again, super cruise is an optional extra, which is about $4,400. So yeah, all these are optional extras provided on this Traverse. Now when we come to the air conditioning control, so it's split between the screen and the button operated. The buttons are provided for everyday use, but if you want to go inside into more detailed settings, then yeah, those are inside this infotainment screen. So straight on and off button that is given. Then on either side there are dials given to change the temperature, so you get tri-zone air conditioning system on this Traverse. And then the button for the fan to increase or decrease the fan speed, and then auto. And if you want to change more settings in terms of the air conditioning, then you go inside this on screen buttons given at the bottom. So to change the temperature on the move, or for the passengers on the move, and you can sync it, then change the fan speed on screen. You can change that to fresh air or the flow of air, you can decide that. Again, all of that can be changed from here. And in order to change the rear air conditioning, you can go from the climate option, which sits on the screen itself, and then on and off button. But again, the first options are all the same controls, like temperature on either side, then the fan speed, and then the flow of air. And then you go into the rear, and then you can change the temperature and also the fan speed and the flow of air. You can lock it or unlock it or switch it on and off from here, and the detailed settings about the temperature. So that's how you control the air conditioning. Now when we come to this infotainment screen, this is a 17.7-inch infotainment screen, which is massive and sits on the other mid-size SUVs like the Buick Enclave. It was like a single 33-inch screen, whereas on this one it's a split one. But this infotainment is the biggest out of all four. So this one is like 17.7 inch, and it's also curved towards the driver, so that is just more easier to interact. So yeah, for the passengers it might be at a little bit of an angle. And not just that, there's also this volume dial. It's also got a bit of animation around that too, but that volume dial sits near the driver, and for the passenger it's a bit further away for them, because for the driver there's already buttons provided in the steering, so that dial could have been on the passenger side. I don't know the arrangement. I get it why, because that would interrupt the design here. But yes, all the menu options are given on the infotainment screen, and it's decently snappy also. So it functions on Google's Android operating system. And then the first option is the vehicle status. You long press and you can adjust those icons also on the screen. Every single icon you can customize it. Then the vehicle status, as I said, maintenance gauges and the trip options. Then the Google Assistant. So hey Google, can you switch off the air conditioning? So now it has switched off the air conditioning. But yes, you can control the air condition, the media controls and everything. Then the Play Store, you can download apps from the Play Store. You have to sign in. Then Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. So in terms of the connectivity, you can connect to this infotainment screen using Bluetooth, USB, and there's wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. But the thing is, when the Android Auto is on, the maps again don't occupy the entire screen, but the inbuilt maps, which are again the Google Maps, they occupy the entire screen. So that's more, utilization of this massive display. Otherwise, yeah, with the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, it does not fully utilize that screen space. Then there is the camera. So there are 360-degree cameras, and yeah, decently big on this one. Standard overhead side, or you can see the back view again, overhead side and hitch. Then the Alexa, Amazon, then the trailering. So you can start the light test and have the checklist and everything, 10-point checklist. Then the detail settings, connections, vehicles, inside which that's teen driver, rear seat reminder, buckle to drive. So only when you buckle, the car would start moving. lightning, power doors, transport mode and everything, notifications, apps, daytime display, sounds. This Traverse comes with Bose surround sound system, profiles, account privacy, accessibility. Then we go back, auto park assist, so this thing can exit from a parking space, how would you like, and then the park also. So it's got park and exit, both the functions. It would just do it automatically for you, so it's just more easier to maneuver this car in a tighter parking space. Then the climate option, Wi-Fi hotspot, then the audio options and the inbuilt map that I was mentioning about. Very big and huge and very crisp in terms of the usage, and really like the utilization of this entire screen. Even goes till the curve and bend and everywhere. So yeah, if it was even used for Android Auto, it would have been nicer. Than the phone option, then the controls, the same controls to change the different settings like the power window lockout, even child locks, and everything is all in here. The auto high beams, all of that. So yeah, it's a bit of a, all over the place in terms of the menu options sometimes. Then the My Chevrolet, where you can schedule services and everything. It takes a little while to load for the first time when you start the car, but yes, once it loads you can schedule your service, my plans, owner settings and everything. Then news, there's also Waze, and there is the Spotify. So those are the options, and then on top there are also quick menu options for home. Then other options where you can see the widgets, so you can change the information on the left side, tire pressure, media and everything, and on the right side you can see the trip information, audio or the maps. Then the media option, then the navigation, phone controls again sits there too. So there are three places where the option sits, and the 360-degree camera. So that is your infotainment screen. Now in terms of the charging, so on this Traverse there are two USB ports, one type C and one normal, along with a 12-volt power socket given underneath the air conditioning controls. Also a wireless charger provided. For the second row there are two more type C USB ports along with a plug point, and for the third row of passengers there are one USB port each given on either side. Now on this Traverse there is also the SOS emergency button and the complimentary OnStar feature that is given, so you can find anything around you or get help about what to do, explore around in the area, or if there is an emergency you can call that for that too. And this is like a 3-year complimentary package given there too. Then there is the extendable sun visors. There is also this optional panoramic sunroof that is provided on this Traverse. And in terms of the space, so in the door cards you can easily put 1.5 liter water bottle, some more storage on the sides. There is also this wireless charger, that space where you can put your phones and wallets. There are two flexible cup holders given ahead of that. There is this covered storage in this center tunnel, you can put your keys and wallets. There's also this big storage given underneath the tunnel, big cutout. Again, that's where you can put books and purses and bags or stuff. There's also this glove box, decently big, but again lined with the plastic. There's this big center armrest in which there's this tray and also more storage given underneath that. Then behind that armrest also there are these two flexible cup holders given for the second row of passengers. And in the rear door cards in the second row you can put 1.5 liter worth of bottle, and the second row are the captain's seats, so there is no handrest, so there is no cup holders or anything, which is why it's given in this center tunnel. And for the third row of passengers there are two more cup holders given on either side. Now on this Traverse Z71 there are these black colored leather seats which are the perforated seats. They have the red and white stitching, and also the Z71 stitched on the headrest. And in terms of the comfort overall, they are a bit on the harder side is what I found, but yeah, in terms of the long-term comfort they will offer you that, because these seats are quite broad, so someone can fit inside these seats quite well. But the only thing that lacks is like the side support and the bottom support. That's not like a lot, because these seats, as I said, are flatter seats. And the under thigh support, that's pretty good in terms of that. And in terms of the lumbar adjustment also, the driver side seat has lumbar adjustment but the passenger side seat does not. So yes, for the driver it can become a little more comfortable with a lot of adjustment. So in terms of the adjustability, so the driver side seat is 8-way electronically adjustable and 4-way lumbar adjustment, whereas the passenger side seat is just manually adjustable. Now also the driver side seat has this safety feature where it vibrates when there is an emergency or if it wants to warn you about. So if I'm going to be taking left turn and there's some object on the left side that I've missed, then it would vibrate on the left side of that seat, and if it's on the right side, then it would vibrate on the right side. But if there is an emergency in front or in the rear, then the whole seat would vibrate to warn you. Now on this Traverse Z71, there are additional buttons given on the left side. So it's got the button for the all-wheel drive or the two-wheel drive. So two-wheel drive is standard front wheel drive, so you can switch to all-wheel drive. So it's selectable one, which will mean that you can have more efficiency out of the system. When you are not going to be using all-wheel drive, you can just switch this to two-wheel drive. And there are also different driving modes. So in terms of the driving modes, there is normal, then there is sport, then off-road and terrain, then the tow haul, and we are back to normal. So there are 5 different driving modes provided on this Traverse Z71 package, and also the electronic parking button. Well, the thing about GM's midsize SUV is that there is a lot of space on the inside, even for the second or the third row of passengers. Now for this second row right now, when the seats are completely in the back, there is like almost more than a palm worth of knee room, and the headroom again is also pretty ample. For someone about 6 feet will still be able to fit into these seats, and you don't feel like you're sitting way too low down. Like there's no compromise on that. You're like sitting almost like in a chair that you would sit. And there's also more space to slide my legs under the seat also during the longer journey. But that's not it, because the second row seats are also slidable and also reclinable. So yeah, really offers so much of comfortable positioning during the longer journeys, or you can keep them upright also. And then if there are passengers in the third row, then you can adjust the space here too. And even after that, like let me just put the seats all the way in the front. Now my knees are almost touching, but still there is a bit of a gap here, so I'm still sitting quite comfortable on the second row of seat. But there is also more space for the third row, because third row is also genuinely very spacious. Now when we come to these seats, these are the captain seats, so they have this armrest on both, and then they are quite leveled out also, so you are quite equal in terms of sitting inside and resting your hands on both the sides. And these seats are again the same leather seats, which are the perforated seats with the red and white stitching. The headrests, they don't have the Z71 stitching on them, but again the thing is that they are bit on the harder side, slightly on the harder side is what I will say, definitely, but it does not compromise on the overall comfort. And the seats are also flat, and they are also quite broad. And not just that, the seats, as I said, they are not quite low down, but at a very decent position, and which is why there is good amount of support underneath my thigh also. So these seats are quite longer also. In terms of that, there are also grab handles given on either side, but only for the second row of seats. There are also air conditioning vents given in the roof, and the air conditioning control is given here for the second and the third row of passengers, like dials on either side for the fan and also the temperature, and then the mode, so flow of air, and also you can leave it in auto or switch it off completely. Then in terms of the door card quality, there is soft touch material again on the door cards, but there is no red color accents given here in the second row, but it was only there in the front. So yeah, again that sort of breaks the design in some ways. And where you're going to be resting hands, that's leather covered with the red color stitching. In terms of the storage, 1.5 liter worth of bottle. There's some more storage at the bottom of this air conditioning controls. There are also pocket storages in the front seats behind that. And because these are the captain seats, so there is no handrest or anything, but you can just have this passage here. But again, you can just walk into the third row of seats if that's the thing that you want to do without getting out of the car when the weather is this bad, because it's raining right now and it's super cold. But let's jump into the third row of seats and find out how spacious that one is. Now, as I said, GM's mid-size SUVs are some of the most spacious ones, especially for the third row, and even on this Traverse, that's continued. Now, the second row of seat is actually slided a little in the front and adjusted in a way that the second and the third row of passengers both have good amount of space. And if you look at it, there is about 2 fingers worth of knee room, and also the headroom again is pretty good for a third row, and there's a bit of a cutout also so as to extend that headroom. But nonetheless, I am pretty impressed by the arrangement here in the third row. Also, the seats are slightly on the lower side, but not way too low down where your knees are almost touching your chest, and that's not the case here, but it's still pretty comfortable. And you know what, the third row of seat is actually very comfortable. It's actually softer than the second row of seats for some reason. They are perforated seats, black color ones with the red color stitching. There are 3 headrests, so maybe 3 people can fit in here, but I don't think so. 2 people, yes, and maybe a child can sit in the middle seat, but 2 adults, yes, can fit in here very well. There is good amount of support, but not too much underneath my side, because there is some amount of angle that my legs are making, and it's just basic that support underneath. There are also rubber mats, by the way, which are optional extras provided on this Traverse, which are given in the third, second, and the front. Also, the rubber mats provided. And as I said, there is this triangular window, and that sort of hinders my visibility, because where I am supposed to look out, that's where this block is. So the triangle is not actually helping, because I have to just bend a little backwards and then get the visibility. So for that, I have to always rest my head against the headrest, and then I'll be able to look out. But otherwise, yes, this thing is straight into my face, so yeah, the visibility is actually quite poor. There are also 2 air conditioning vents provided on the roof, but the way that they are arranged, it's just facing straight on your face, so all the time it's either hot or cold air blasting on top of your head. Now, in terms of the storage, as I said, there are 2 cup holders and some more storage provided on either side, and also 2 USB ports. And in order to get out of the third row, so the other variants, there is electronic button, so you press that and the seats electronically fold away. There is that package which is an optional extra, but on this it's just mechanical. So you pull this lever on the second row of seat and slide the seats forward, and after that you can get out from these seats. So again, yeah, the opening and getting in and out is actually very easy, because there is just so much of space to arrange. But let me push the seats back all the way and show you how much room there is after the second row of passenger puts the seats behind. Yeah, so now that I've pushed the second row of seats completely back, and assuming that the second row of passengers are not going to be adjusting, then this is the sort of arrangement that you can look at in the third row of seats. And now I think the kids are more suitable for these seats instead of the adults, but most of the times the passengers are going to be kind enough to adjust, because there is a lot of space there in the second row also, even when they push the seats ahead. But if they are not going to be doing it, then yes, this is the sort of arrangement that they are looking at. So this Chevrolet Traverse Z71 is powered by a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that produces 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque. And this engine is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission that sends power to all the wheels via the all-wheel drive system. So it's not a 4-wheel drive, but an all-wheel drive system. Now, the thing is, in terms of the engine response, it's pretty good for day-to-day use. The power and torque is there, just that the torque is somewhere after 3000 rpm, so it takes a little longer, and also the max power comes in at around 5500 rpm, which is quite higher, and which is why sometimes this car may feel a bit sluggish in terms of its response. And the thing is, this thing weighs about 4800 pounds, so again, that weight also is quite visible and evident when the car is when the engine is trying to push that much through the wheels. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. But overall, for day-to-day use, this is a very good sort of response from the engine and the drivetrain also. And in terms of the all-wheel drive, it's gonna be decently capable. Again, there's a Z71 package which is much more off-road oriented, but it won't do like rock crawling and all of that stuff. But yes, some basic off-roading it will be able to do with these all-terrain tires. Yes, it's gonna be quite capable that way when the roads are gonna end. And also there are different modes also. Even when I put this car into the sport mode, the throttle response slightly improves. Now the thing is that there is a bit of a throttle delay also, so even if you put it in the sport mode, the turbos take a little more longer, and then the throttle pedal itself also takes slightly to respond, so that adds up in terms of the delay, in terms of the response. So even if you put it in the sport mode, yes, the steering response improves, and also the engine sort of, the gearbox would tend to shift at higher RPMs. And in terms of the shifts also, the gearbox is actually very crisp, like you don't really notice that it's cycling through the 8 gears up and down, so that's also very good. But yes, in terms of the all-wheel drive capabilities, again, it's gonna be there and it's gonna be available. Now when we come to the fuel economy, so from this 2.5 liter turbocharged engine, the fuel economy is going to vary from 9 to 9.5 liters per 100 kilometers during the longer runs, and inside the city it's going to vary from 12 to 12.5 to 13 liters per 100 kilometers. So it averages to around 11.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is again pretty decent. Now the thing is that this engine is actually a little on the loud side, and I don't know if there is not enough sound insulation, because on the Buick Enclave it's got the same engine, but it did very well in terms of the sound insulation. It was actually pretty quiet on the inside, and then you wouldn't notice that you're driving a 4-cylinder 2.5 liter turbocharged engine. But yes, on this again it is quite evident, and it also was quite evident on the GMC Acadia. Now when you come to the suspensions, there are like the off-road graded suspensions on this, so there are like adaptive dampers, and also there is, as I said, 1.2 inches of suspension lift. But yes, the suspensions are actually very good on this, something that was missing in the other mid-size SUV from GM's lineup. And this dampens very well. It does not take longer and doesn't jump around a lot. Like the damping is like spot on that way, and it's also offering a comfortable driving experience too. So on that suspension side, it's actually very good. Now when we come to the steering, so there is an electronic steering on this, but it's got this very big SUV sort of response from the steering. It's a bit lousy, and yeah, it takes a little longer to respond when you try to turn. Not that it's not sharp, it is sharp, but it's just that it makes you feel like you're driving a big SUV. And also there's a bit of a feedback that's sort of missing from this steering, and it also takes like more than 1.5 rotations from each side. So from left to right it would take more than 3 rotations to turn around. And I get it, it's more off-road oriented, which is why it's calibrated like that. But yes, in terms of the feedback, a little bit can be improved, because this thing sits on all-terrain tires, but with the 18-inch rims there is an additional bit of cushion also, and the steering has a bit of that hardness also because of these tires also, so that improves slightly in a positive way. But yes, in terms of offering a little bit of extra cushioning and also damping, the tires also work well. Now when we come to the brakes, so there are 4 disc brakes given on this Traverse, and sometimes I feel that the disc brakes are on the weaker side. The braking action itself is on the weaker side, because when I try to press it, the brake pedal is progressive, but yes, I feel like yes, there is like that sort of response, and you can feel that there is the weight from those brakes also, and it's kind of working hard to get the vehicle to bring down in terms of its speed. Now when we come to the noise and the vibrations, as I said, there is that engine noise. There's also a bit of wind whooshing from around these windows. There's also the tire noise because these are like quite big tires on this, so there is a slight amount of that also. And the build quality seems to be all right for now, and just that some of the build quality that you saw in the headrest, yeah, that's something that needs to be figured out because it's all mechanical and not even electronic. So yeah, for that to stop working is a bit awkward. Now when we come to the safety systems, so there are 9 airbags, 2 for the front driver and the passenger, 2 side airbags again for the driver and the passengers. There is also one more airbag given on the driver's side for the middle tunnel area. Then there are also 2 curtain airbags given in the frames, and also 2 more curtain airbags given in the rear frame, also in the pillars. Then there is also child isofix points in both the second row of seats. There is also a 360-degree camera system. The output from that is pretty good. You can select so many different views: the front view, the overhead view, the rear view, even in there so many different views, trailering views, and the quality is pretty crisp and it's pretty big enough. They've utilized the screen quite well on this one. And there's also this seat vibrator for the safety system, so in case there's an emergency, it would vibrate on a respective side, so both your bums are informed about that, or there's in the front or the back, again the whole seat vibrates to inform you that. So if you're a careless driver, this feature is quite useful. Then there is the ABS, there's tire pressure monitoring system, emergency brake assist. Then there is also the front and the rear collision warning, pedestrian warning, all of that, rear seat reminder also. Then there is the super cruise control, then the blind spot warning. So yeah, a lot of safety system also is given. Now when we come to the pricing, so this Z71 package comes at $53,999,000, whereas there are like $7,500 worth of optional extras. So eventually, with all the freight cost and the tax and everything, depends on provinces to provinces, this thing comes in at $63,000, but without the optional extras, let's stick to $54,000, whereas the base variant, which is the LT, starts from $50,800, and the top trim RS, which is much more sportier, starts at $65,000, somewhere around that, $65,800. I'm going to put the exact pricing on your screen now. This particular variant Z71 at $54,000 is actually a very good buy because it's got the off-road capabilities. Yes, decently off-road. It's got good looks. It's practical. It's spacious. It's got so much of space actually, especially the second and the third row space is very, very good on this one. So the ride quality, yes, is actually very good compared to the other models that I've driven from the lineup, but overall as a package this is very good, and at that price point this thing makes a lot more sense. So if you're looking for like a 7-seater capable off-road, semi-off-road kind of mid-size SUV, then this is a very good option to look for, because the other models are about $65,000, whereas this is well under 60, which is $54,000. So why not? So yes, make sure to give this car a test drive and check it out for yourself. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching this video, and if you've liked this video, make sure to press that thumbs up button, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care and drive safe.